Today we have some great guests as we close this conversation, and hopefully it'll continue in other ways. But today we've got some great guests, and as always, my co-host Tishalan Pillay. I want to get your sense as to what do you think the big takeouts have been in the last 5 episodes?
Thanks for the introduction, Aubrey. And I think the big takeouts would obviously be the potential that we're seeing in Africa, especially looking at the young population that we have and the bright future that brings. And the ETA Search Fund, of course, that ASI has pledged 300 million rand investment to capitalize on that youth opportunity, while also safeguarding the legacies of great business minds and leaders that have paved the way over the last few decades for this continent. I think the takeaways would definitely be largely coming from those 2 areas.
And of course, today we have some great guests, people that don't need too much introduction. I'm going to start off with Vusi Thembekwayo. As you probably know, that this is an accomplished man. He's a man that is an accomplished speaker, an international speaker, one of our foremost venture capitalists in South Africa. Anthony Govender, the founder of the ASI Group, and really the man that has not only seeded the idea, at least in South Africa's business environment. I'm talking about the ETA idea. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Aubrey. Great to be here.
Vusi, I want to start off with you. We've been talking over the last 5 episodes of this particular podcast about a great opportunity, and that is entrepreneurship through acquisition.
100%.
What do you think of it?
Well, I mean, first, let me just say it's a whole category right now, right? Wall Street versus Main Street. It's pumping in the US because even in the United States, which is the largest market in the world, what they're realizing is that the real economic value is in Main Street, not Wall Street. It's real businesses run by real people, providing real jobs, paying real salaries. I'll give you an example. Beginning of the year, I'm in Saudi Arabia, right? And coming up on stage is the guy who's the executive that runs XAI.
Yeah.
And they're raising capital from the Saudis. I want to say something like an $80 billion valuation. And my mouth just waters thinking about these numbers. The South African venture capital ecosystem, the entire year last year, was something like $5 billion. So XAI, less than 3-4 years, $80 billion, right? That's the stuff people pay attention to, but here's what they're missing. So how many jobs is they going to create? How many legacies is they going to build?
Yeah.
The power of the United States is that they have that type of stuff, but the real power of the United States is that they have multiples more capital in what is called unsung money. It's the money that goes to the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. It's the cornerstone of the community. It's these businesses that large institutions typically don't look at, but you find family offices owning that build multi-legacy businesses. Go have a look today at what BlackRock is doing. Go have a look at what KKR is doing. Suddenly they're going, Wall Street's great, but it's a bit overpriced. Do you know what the real arbitrage is? The real arbitrage is in these businesses that are legacy businesses that are run by families that actually understand them. And what we're sitting with here, particularly in South Africa and the rest of Africa, is, and here's the cool part, we are the first generation where there is an exodus of capital that's about to take place. These are men and women, families in the 60s and 70s who've built this thing. And so for me, what's exciting about, particularly what the Search Fund is attempting to do and through this acquisition is this idea that you can institutionalize, bring governance, bring corporate management and take these businesses to next. Because often when you buy those businesses, they're priced at 1, maybe to 2x, but the real consolidation opportunity takes this thing to 4, 5x. That's how we create real value, Aubrey.
If you look at South Africa, over 60% of companies are SMEs, predominantly family-owned businesses. And at least 54% of family-owned businesses, the children don't necessarily want to be involved in their moms and dads' companies. And so the question is, how do you find succession for those businesses? And this is where the ETA has been built very strategically. And I can't take full credit for this because this was a joint effort between Tishalan and the rest of my exco to say, let's create a model, having done a number of acquisitions in the company over the last 7 or 8 years. How do we create a model that impacts other entrepreneurs and creates sustainable legacy plans for entrepreneurs that have committed their lives? I mean, if you look at myself, the last 17 years, it's been blood, sweat, and grind to build something significant, which now employs a few hundred families, which impacts thousands of lives in terms of the beneficiaries of those families. And more importantly, there's over 2.5 million people that we serve in the country. This business shouldn't simply disappear into the ether. There has to be a succession plan. And so rather than talking to let's build to list or let's build to exit, which has been the narrative that most entrepreneurs, because it's cashing out, I want the new black Range Rover and I want to get a Porsche. We're going to build the company very sustainably, and we are in the time game and we're not in the money game. So over the next 25 years, 30 years, we will build and we will hand over. And in handing over, we will get that handsome check from the young leaders in the business, because there's sufficient money in the business and there's sufficient value in the company that a bank will be prepared to raise the check for that business to exit those shareholders. Equally so, we don't leave the business in a crutch or in a wheelchair without any skills and leadership potential and capacity. So we build those young guys now, and over the next 25 years, they are ready to lead because they have worked in the asset. They've come to appreciate how the asset has been led. Talking to family businesses, the ASI group of companies are very much one of family-owned businesses that have come together with a common set of values, with a very clear vision, a unified vision of what we would like to do for a generation after us. And ultimately, we're creating a group of companies that would sustain employment long after we have gone. And there's this notion of wise men plant trees that they may never sit in their shade.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's exactly what we're doing.
My great-grandfather moved to what we know today to be South Africa. We are, Swati people, and he moved from, the kingdom of Eswatini. He settled in Mpumalanga, then from Mpumalanga to Alexander, the oldest township in South Africa, and then worked in the mines. My grandfather, similar kind of story, decided he didn't want to work in the factory, so he started a speakeasy. The best shebeen in Wattville at a point in time.
Right.
They used to call my grandfather's place Chicken Licky.
Come on.
It was that good. And he then uses some of that money and he buys a few spaza shops. Fast forward to his passing. When my grandfather passed, the only thing I inherited from him was his bicycle. I still have that bicycle. It hangs on my wall. I've since had it embossed in copper, because that bicycle represented his work ethic. It was the thing he took to go meet suppliers, to go buy meat, to go and get, And so when the whole family was like, oh, there's a farm, I was just give me the bicycle. My father started a business in the middle of his corporate life. Business failed. We almost lost everything. And Dad had the fortitude and the intelligence to go back to corporate, and he rebuilt himself, and then he was murdered. So my whole life, I have this model of watching these men who've raised me and how they've attempted at this thing at business. Then when I start working, I realize that all the guys I work for aren't celestial beings. Right. They've built these large companies and listed them and made a ton of money. They're just people. So I went, what did they know that my grandfather didn't? My dad didn't. And it's what South Africa today needs to understand. It's three things. First, it's what Anne said. It's a system. If you get the system right, the result will come. It's math. My challenge with South Africans is we're so all over each other's politics. We're not thinking about the stuff that actually creates value.
Yeah.
I'll give you a simple example. A friend of mine lives in Lenasia, right? So when I'm in the country once in a while, I pop in to go visit him. And then I look at all of these stores that used to be, the bedrock of Lenasia and how they've been taken over. I'm going, do people understand how much value extraction that is in our economy? When the shop is taken over as the shop, but that's a value chain effect, because the stock in the shop is also not a stock that we're making. The financing infrastructure is also not a financing infrastructure. Then the employment, it has a massive cascade effect in our societies. What is South Africa's plan? Here's for me what's exciting and why I accepted the invitation to be here. Then when I had a look at what you guys are doing with the search fund, I was like, this is brilliant. It's simply because it's an opportunity for South Africa to craft a plan. We're fantastic at importing models in this country. We call them best practice, which basically means the Europeans have done it, proven that it doesn't work. We're going to spend the next 10 years proving what the Europeans already know.
Yep.
Spot on.
It's our thing. Here is an opportunity for us to go, what would it look like if we had Ubuntu capital? What would it look like if we wrote our own template. For us, the places we come from, these businesses aren't a financial return. It's a part of our identity. It's who we are. And we have to be intentional about building our model for what capital looks like. What I think was uniquely different when I went through the stuff I was reading about ETA was this opportunity of, I was saying it actually to my assistant. I said, man, this is brilliant. She said, why? I said to her, they got the gray hairs in the room with the wet ears, man. And we're not in the same room going, it actually doesn't matter who's responsible for where we are. Let's agree where we are, and then let's find a way out of it.
South Africa operates in a very unique context. And so, when you have foreign investors and you start talking to them about broad-based black economic empowerment,
they glaze. You can see the eyes glaze. It's true.
It's this, and this is the issue that Elon Musk had with South Africa. And what I have found is a number of our family-owned businesses, traditionally white-owned and led businesses, don't mind getting a BE partner, but they want to do so in an integrous manner, where there's money that exchanges hands. And Vusi, you would appreciate this, that many years ago, a lot of our black entrepreneurs were doing deals in paper, and then it cost the white business owner 3 times as much to get them out of the business.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our fellow entrepreneurs and business owners in the country, a lot of them family-owned, want to have the right kind of transformation credentials.
So good.
This vehicle gives them exactly that, because there's the capital guarantee to the young entrepreneur wanting to get involved in the business. There's the mentorship and advice that ensures that he succeeds, because the money is just one part of it. The second part of it is actually teaching this young man or woman what needs to go into building this business and scaling the business. Because you don't simply buy a business and expect it to grow itself. There's sweat capital that's needed in the company. And so we get to teach the youngsters firsthand. And it's an opportunity that we also took to our employees to say, if you want to invest in a company, gain the skills from us, become a leader in the business, and we will back you to go and buy a company. As long as you remain part of this ecosystem, a group of businesses, because we are ultimately building legacy. You've got to pay this forward. We don't want to have people who are not shared in their purpose and values to the company.
You know, one of the things, if I may, one of the things I love about kind of the way you've approached this, right? And for a lot of people who are not aware of the real strength of Warren Buffett's wallet was that he had Gecko. It was the insurance business that annuitized his income, that allowed him the ability to think creatively. And, you're kind of looking at a
Warren.
because it's, the model is, okay, so we've got a strong base here that gives us security. From that, we've built strong capital and a strong balance sheet. What are the other things we can do to add value, right? And I'm saying this simply to say that it's been my deepest pain. South Africa doesn't have a lack of people who know what needs to get done. It is a lack of people who do it. There is the knowing, and then there is the executing. And as you know, in business, knowing is 5%. The real magic is in how do we execute. So what you're seeing come together here is the understanding of, what are the challenges and how do we fix them? Then the thinking of what is the model that works for us to do this? And then the idea, so how do we ideate this model so that it works and I'm saying this so that people watching this don't go, oh, it's just the fun. It really just isn't that. It's like there's components of it that have got to come together that I wanted to add. I'm curious about you to share that 7 framework that you have when you take over businesses. Because I think, I said this to you before when you and I were chatting online, I said to you, there are some things that are a-religious, apolitical. If I jump into a swimming pool, I could pray to Buddha, Allah, and Jesus. I'm going to get wet. It's a pool. Water does what it does. And whilst there are elements for sure, all of us in business know business has its politics and, but there are just certain things
that are just objectively what they are.
They are what they are.
Yeah.
And what I loved when you were sharing that model, I was like, that is actually so good. So maybe, I think for the benefit of, certainly for me, it's like, what are those 7 things you look for when you're going, okay, so this is something that is potential, we're going to buy it, and here are the things we're going to put in.
Integrity and trust is something that we never waver on. You can have a great partner with a lot of energy, a lot of skill.
Yeah.
But if integrity gets compromised, it could be disastrous for your business. So what's been a golden thread for us in every partner business that we've partnered with, for the most part, I think, we've had a great 94% success ratio so far in finding the right DNA in our partners, but very importantly with this value of integrity. The things that they say are the things that they actually do. Because the contract is forgotten after the ink dries.
Amen.
And so what you're looking for is the conduct of the individual after the contract is signed. Less so what's in the contract. You're looking for an integrous conduct in the partner. You're looking for skill, you're looking for energy, because to build a business, people track return on investment and return of capital. You don't track return of energy.
Yep.
Because you spend 8 to 10 hours as the average executive. When you're a founder entrepreneur, you're putting in 18 hours.
Easy.
You're putting twice the amount of effort. And so we look, does the individual have the passion, energy, and drive for this thing that they are selling into the market? You must believe in the service and product. And I suppose what's helped us, Aubrey, in firstly identifying the right partners. Why did those partners actually come to us? The things you say will earn you credibility. All the things that we say on this podcast will earn us credibility. The things that will earn us dependability and reliability is the fact that we follow through consistently on the things that we said we're going to do. Do that for a long period of time, you earn integrity in your brand. So a lot of our partner businesses have watched us over a decade do the things that we said we were going to do. And some of them actually gave us a hard no several years ago, but they're saying yes to us now. And so finding those partners were very easy, and it's really been a conversation over a long period of time. And Vusi, you'll appreciate that lead time in converting businesses is exceptionally long.
Amen.
Right? In the B2C and B2B space, very, very different world. And so to talk to a business owner and convince him to sell you his child, because this business that he's birthed and run for 27 years, and I've got an incredible partner, John Rosen, serves a major part of the Jewish community in the area of insurance. And his son Benjamin is through a scholarship with ASI, and he studies at Wits, an incredible kid, passed with 6 distinctions. He was pretty average before we met me, so I'm taking full credit for his great grades. And he plays rugby, which, I'm very passionate about rugby. But Benji's an incredible kid. And when I met with John, I said to him, what is the future for your business? Let's talk about legacy. And he's got a brilliant partner in Jaco Rupping, exactly the same conversation. And the conversation we had is about building the business transformatively, because John in his 50s had the company for the last 27 years, could only take the business to a certain point. He needed a bigger brand, he needed technology, he needed capital investment. His business has grown by over 350% in the last 5 years with us.
Wow.
And Jaco, there's such a it's the yin and yang in every partnership that we're looking for as well. We typically look for teams of people, and not a single individual. That's because exactly right. Vusi could, God forbid this happen, he could fall ill today, and then who's going to run the business tomorrow?
That's right.
But if there's a group of 4 of us, and we're all in this, and if one of us falls, if there are 3 other people to hold the reins, and so we're looking for that yin and yang in the teams that lead the business, and very much all the things that you are taught in investment school, which investment managers like Vusi would look for and go, oh my God, there's key man risk here. If Anthony falls off the bus, what do we do next?
Sure.
I built a team of people, actuaries, CAs, really, really strong professionals in our space to say, you could lead the structure. So that if I'm hit by a bus tomorrow, this business continues.
It's good.
They've got a clean balance sheet, and they understand that the only requisite that they've got to fulfill in the company from a leadership point of view is to play the time game, not the money game.
By the way, you're taking my wet ears thing. I'm taking time game, not money game. I declare it publicly.
And I'll ask for my 10% from both you gentlemen.
But you got to share the 7 things, though.
Yeah. So 7 things. The starting point is every business needs to have a strategy, a business map or a strategy map. What is the idea behind this business? What is the purpose behind this business? What's the destination point? Where are you taking the company to?
Good.
As a second part, you'd appreciate this, Vusi, business is about sales.
Amen.
You could have the best product and idea. If nobody buys it, business is not worth anything.
Yeah.
And here I've taken quite a few tips out of your podcast, so thank you for sharing.
Oh, good.
I'm an active follower. You have a challenge with your YouTube, though, because I couldn't subscribe and pay. So I'll take that with you offline. I want to
the
be a paying
commercials already.
customer. I want to be a paying customer. I don't invite people into our business who I don't actively support. So I screen grabbed this and I said, when I tell Vusi about this later, I got to share this with him. Yeah. But back to the point of, you got to have a brilliant sales and marketing plan, because in the absence of you getting your product and service out to market, you're not deriving revenue. In the services space, it's even more challenging, because you are simply going to your customer and telling them that the service that Vusi is offering is inferior to yours. Mm-hmm. You've got to offer more. And so as a third party is building that USP and VP quite uniquely. What is your value proposition? What differentiates you? What is the strategic differentiator between you and the 13,000 other brokers that Tishalan has to compete against? Because we've been the fastest growing brokerage on the continent, and more recently, the fastest growing property company in the continent. What's got us to do that? We've had to build a brand with integrity. We've had to build a proposition. And so that third part is very important. As a fourth, you want to create raving fans out of your employees.
Employees.
Wow. When you're a services company, you want to build raving fans out of your employees because they sell your service to the customer.
That's true.
And by doing that, you create raving fans out of your customers.
I'd never thought of that. I would have jumped to the customer part. That's good.
Yeah. So I start with the employee, and the big focus in our business is on building culture. How do we make you a better human being, a better leader, a better employee, a better manager, a better service agent than you were before? It's a multi-million rand investment that goes into the employees every year. And through the process, they create raving fans out of our customers.
So good.
Risk compliance and governance, absolutely crucial. You can't run a business without it. I've got a phenomenal risk compliance and legal team. They study all the legislation. We're in highly regulated markets. Our public interest score is so high when we get audited. Clean financials, clean balance sheet, and in a major part that's influenced by the risk thinking. There's an active risk register. So we're actively looking at what are the potential things that could affect our business. Incidentally, 5 years ago, in COVID, we identified a potential major revenue risk to the company. In that time, the revenue risk maybe was roughly about 27% of our group revenues. It is now down to 5% because of our diversification. Business comes with risk.
Right.
You need to be aware of the risk, accept that this risk is going to be there. You either manage it, eliminate it, or avoid it, but do something to deal with it, rather than simply going, well, I know there's a risk, and doing nothing. And rightfully so, Vusi, as you point out, knowing is only 5%, doing is the other 95%. Yeah. And we took that decision overnight without a business plan. We invested into another business segment and industry without a business plan. Typical entrepreneurial gut feel. These businesses mirror what we are doing in other segments. We think this could work. And you talk about gut feel entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
So I took it to the actuaries who see all the red flags. Justin, who's my risk guru, if you will, in the business, says, I don't like that, I don't like it. I said, we'll contract those things. Let's work towards the opportunity.
So good.
And we pivoted. So part of that, the risk compliance, and then technology. AI has been a major driver in the world. Incidentally, one of the things that we've just embarked on is training our employees on what does AI practically mean for them and the business. The starting point is to build awareness. It can't sit in the C-suite office where we talk AI and digital transformation and where the world is moving to. And we simply said, well, in the technology space, we simply want what our humans are doing in service done a hell of a lot faster, because we're competing against the Ubers of the world, right? Previously, you and I went to Nando's. Now we don't go to Nando's anymore. We simply order it online.
That is so good.
So we said, we're not going to displace the technical skills that we have in the business. Yeah. We're simply going to build technological platforms that enable them to do what they do a lot faster and get them to do a lot more using technology.
Got you.
Because we're a human-to-human business. If Vusi is going to talk about a legacy plan, he's not going to talk to ChatGPT or
That's why robo-advisors have done so poorly in this environment, right? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
But he's going to do human to human. He's going to
100%.
go, and I've got so many kids,
Yep,
and this is
yep.
this is what I need to do for my
Preach.
wife, and this is what I want as my legacy plan. It's human to human. And if he doesn't trust me,
He's not sharing it.
he's not sharing it. And so what we've been able to do in that business mastery blueprint is firstly build a very solid sustainability plan for every business coming in respect of risk, governance, compliance, technology, the employees. It's holistic in its approach. And at the same time, put the capital behind the young entrepreneur. It can't fail.
So I just want to say something. So, for some people, business is like the thing they do or, the job they have. For some of us, I imagine it's the case for like if you're a real entrepreneur, it's actually a game. That's why we do it. So I'll give you an example. My office is up the road here on 90 Rivonia. I was driving past here on my way home last night, 2 a.m., because I was working on term sheets and I was not going to go home until I had those term sheets done, right? So I get home, my youngest, he's on holiday. He sat in my home office on my TV watching his YouTube. I get home, he's like, well, finally, where have you been? I was at the office. He's like, Ninja, look at the time. Like, where you been? And it hit me then that that's a game for me, right? So what you're hearing here is basically Konstantin Papic playbook for this is how the game is played. And what a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand, and I dare even say the policymakers, regulators, politicians in South Africa don't understand, is you don't plan for the outcome, you plan for the process, right? Amateurs talk content, experts talk logistics. Because an expert will tell you, that happens, this is the outcome. What you're hearing here is, these are the logistics. And so if we're really serious about how do we build an economy, how do we remove or begin to do something about the 60% youth unemployment statistic, you've got to figure out a way to go to Toyando and get people operating in that environment to understand that system and build for that system. Almost all entrepreneurs hate risk. Like the minute we hear risk, oh man, all I'm going to hear is no. And what I've just heard there is, actually, you've got a plan for it. And so what entrepreneurs try to do is they go, I'm going to do this amazing thing, it's going to work. Nothing could go wrong. And if anything can go wrong, I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. It's not the way to do it. That's why I love what you said, manage, eliminate, to avoid, right? And so what you're hearing is actually once you've done all of the stuff, the strategic thinking, the go-to-market value propositioning, you then got to go, what could go wrong? And plan for that. And if we get these things right, Aubrey, this for me, it's like my passion, man. Like, teach them the how. They will get the what. You don't got to worry about giving them the what to do. We live in a country where people love to tell people what to do. We go township economy, now we are all doing it. Or, agriculture, now we are all doing it. That's what. Where's your how, buddy? Where's your how? Because if you teach people the how, you can leave them to their mechanics. They will figure out a way of the sectors to get into. That's why it's called the free market, because they have the freedom to express, to think, to ideate, to innovate, right? So that's why I was so when you spoke about that, I was like, yeah, I need to hear about that.
How does the ETA proposition, and I think I understand the answer to that, how does it answer South Africa's question while it answers the African question?
By God's grace, of the 54 countries on the continent, I've traveled 43, 44, all on business. So whereas some people think about Africa, I'm in it. If I was stuck in Mombasa or Nairobi, Lagos, Kigali, Conakry, I don't need a hotel. There's somebody I could phone, and in 20 minutes I'll have a place to stay. So for me, it's home. So when I see our contestation in South Africa with the rest of our brothers and sisters from the rest of the continent, I'm often having to play this dual role because I'm in a lot of the WhatsApp groups where my friends are going, yo, what are y'all doing? And I go, let me give you the context. And once I educate them on the context, the promise of what South Africa was committed to do for the people who were downtrodden, the most disadvantaged, how that promise has been failed on, and how what they're watching is not only that promise being lost, but they're also watching what they believe was their rightful part of the economy also being taken from them. Once you get people to see it, they go, I get it. as long as Africa thinks of itself as a recipient of charity from the rest of the world and thinks of itself as a recipient of solutions to its problems, this problem will sustain. The only way out is we've got to first go, why aren't we backing ourselves? So your question about where does the ETA play in speaks to, hey, we are backing ourselves. We are not waiting for the cavalry to come from somewhere to give us the model and the capital and then tell us how to do it. So that's the first point I want to make. Yeah. The second point I want to make, which is a very acute point about your question on Africa. I think the greatest thing that's going to have happened to this continent over the past 50 years is the orange man in the White House. And I'll tell you why. Because he said, don't come and talk to me about charity, come and talk to me about economics. Congo, Rwanda, you're fighting. I actually really don't care much for the dynamics. Make peace, Congo, give me minerals. And really what he's saying to the rest of Africa is trade. Yeah. Why are you asking for aid? So what is the first? He shuts down US aid. And then he shut down so many other aid programs. I know parts of the continent where literally there are suburbs with houses today that are to let because he shut down and people went, hold on, you're trying to tell me that a big part of the suburb were people who were here on an aid program? And if they were here on an aid program for 30 years, why are we still poor?
Exactly.
Like, what's the story here? So I think he's good for us in the sense that at the very least, he's going to force us to have the conversation.
It's a great perspective.
He goes, hold on. The largest institutional investor and pension fund in Uganda is NSSF. They're friends and clients of ours. Where are you putting your money, NSSF? Is it in bonds? Is it in real estate? Or are you putting it in real hard assets that are creating jobs? Today, you can put money in the Zambian bond market, and I think you can get a 10-year bond at a 23% yield or something like this. You can check my numbers on this. 20% yield, risk-free capital?
That's amazing.
Do you know what that means? It means that a Zambian entrepreneur, where's he going to raise the money from? Because the banks raise the capital, sit on it, they buy bonds, and they just leave it there.
It means you more than double your asset value in 4 years.
You've nailed it. And it means the entrepreneur is competing for capital with the government.
Are we developing the language to speak that? Because in the same way that we spoke about the knowing-doing gap, we might know and we might do, but we might not be communicating.
Africa actually really has a problem of just being misunderstood. So let's reframe this conversation. I was just in Atlanta. I did a massive event in Atlanta, 4,000 people. I don't have to dedicate my time to talking about the unit economics of my continent, but I did. The first 20 minutes, I spoke about demographics. I spoke about the rapid rates of urbanization. I spoke about access to internet, mobile telephony. And then I spoke about what this means for the future of the continent. Then I do what I did. So we've got to take the time to go, your understanding is wrong. Let me educate you. I travel to the Middle East often. It's incredibly difficult to get Middle Eastern investors to invest here. They make a lot more money just buying the latest apartment block in Dubai. They really don't have to place the capital here. But we've got to educate. And in that education, what I'm finding is there are two sets of people. There are the builders who are building these solutions and going to market and doing it. And then there are those of us who are charged with, okay, so you've got airspace. Tell them, because their understanding of it is wrong. And let's be honest, we were positioned as the people who come from a place where there is an imaginary country called Zamunda. You see what I'm trying to say?
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
So when you go there, you have a lot of that unlearning to give them. They go, I'm from South Africa. They go, do you know my friend So from South Africa? I've never been to Benin. So, no, I don't know your friend. But let me explain how big this continent is, right? So South Africans need to understand we still are the template for the continent. We're adversarial. We're constantly fighting ourselves over who plays better soccer, us or so-and-so, and who's been how far in the AFCON. Make no mistake about it. Our ports, road, rail, infrastructure, banking system, insurance system, we are the template. When the rest of the continent goes, where do we need to see where they've done it right? They come here. Okay. That means we are uniquely positioned to take this templatizing and go, now add this to what you need to learn. So we don't even have to go in and do the investments. We just have to show that these investments can work and that they can generate value. If you want to access capital markets, financialization in Africa, you come here. You want to access banking and invest in banking in Africa, you buy Standard Bank. You want to get into telecoms, you buy MTN. Where do you get them? At the JSE. You come here. So why are we trying to compete with, I don't know, Sudan on oil? We don't have it, right? Once I think we figure out that it's a collaboration, not a competition,
Yes.
it's going to change the way we approach the rest of the world. So I say to friends who are in my category, in my industry, like, you're raising a fund. Yeah, what is your fund? Tell me. Because I might know somebody who will invest in it who won't give me money. I lose nothing if you raise the next batch. I want you to succeed. I want you to win. The rising tides elevate all the ships.
This notion that South Africa needs foreign aid is fundamentally flawed. The financial services sector is over 14 trillion. We have over 4.7 trillion, roughly, in pension assets that's sitting in savings accounts, pension savings accounts that needs to be invested. We could invest more locally. In fact, we've changed the regulations so that we can bolster more global equity investments. And I'm saying the time to invest those monies in South Africa and in local businesses, privately owned companies is now. So this notion that we don't have enough money and there isn't sufficient access to capital is flawed.
Good.
Just over 2.5 years ago, Aubrey, you'd recall this, we had an event in Bryanston. Dr. David Masango, the Deputy Finance Minister, was there. And I made the bold decision of pledging 100 million rand into our ED fund. And we said, we're going to invest in local businesses. As a relatively small company in South Africa, in my mind, I still see ASI as a small business. You know, we don't employ 10,000 people yet. Emphasis on yet.
Yet. I saw that. Yeah, that's good.
Right. And we pledged 100 million, and my pledge at that time was to invest in other local businesses. We did just that. We had completed that round of funding, and we said, what next? And we said, we got to increase it. And we made some great investment decisions, and credit to my team on that. Some great capital recovery. We said, we'll 3x the investment, and we're now launched the ETA fund of 300 million. And why did we do that? You've got this massive access of capital in the country, the PIC being one of them.
Sure.
Yeah. The Government Employee Pension Fund, South Africa's Government Employees Pension Fund, is the largest pension fund on the continent. There isn't a shortage of money. But the challenge is to get money out of that system. Some of the flaws in our country is that you've got to be politically connected. And typically the businesses that are really run well and are run really well from a governance point of view are the businesses that struggle to access that money. And that's what we've got to change. The decision to actually put our own money into it was to get government to see and all of the other funds to see that we would back ourselves. Because the best thing for an investor is to see that you got skin in the game.
100%.
Yeah?
That changes the conversation.
It changes the conversation. You ask for R1 billion and no skin in the game, and you go back and ask for 10 billion and you've got all your skin in the game. You've put your house, you've put your life savings into the business.
That's it.
They'll back you.
100%.
And that's typically what people like Vusi look for, is what are the elements of risk? And by the way, did you put your own money into this asset? Because if you don't believe in the asset, why should we? And so that was what we were trying to get to market, is that we know what we're doing. We may not necessarily have the PhDs that some of our government officials have. But we certainly know how to build businesses. We are business builders, and we've built a number of businesses very successfully. We're one of the most significant tax contributors in the country. And that's a great position to be, to know that we're having impact to our country. So first part is there isn't a lack of access to capital. As a second, we needed to show government and all of the funds out there that we're prepared to back ourselves.
Just back up a little bit. You just said now there isn't a lack of access to capital.
There isn't
a lack of capital.
There isn't a lack of capital.
Right.
It's just accessing the capital that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Now, there is access to capital, but I don't think that's necessarily policed and enforced well enough. In fact, the people that are most deserving of the capital, people like myself, starting 17 years ago, we couldn't get money from the National Endowment Fund. We couldn't get money from the banks.
Don't go there.
So now when they want to give me money, I go, no thanks, I don't need it.
100%.
this business, this ASI Group, has got a healthy 9 digits in its bank account. We don't need your money anymore. You should have given us this money when we needed it.
It's this insatiable appetite for venture returns without taking venture risk.
It's about finding people like us. And I think Vusi's done this particularly well. And I've followed a lot of your talks, and I've seen the shift in not just your content that you're putting out, but how you've shown up as a leader for our country and ambassador of South Africa. But the idea is to teach this to the masses in our country. We should stop talking jobs. We need to start talking businesses and start building entrepreneurs. My mom was a domestic worker, graduated to a textile worker, and she raised 4 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And so we knew the value of hard work. We knew the science of money. We understood compounding because she would keep a little bit of money away every week in a weekly wage. And so we understood the importance of saving. She taught that to her kids. I'm simply teaching all the things that my mom as a teacher taught me to over 2 million customers as my clients.
That's good.
I've now got this responsibility to teach this to other entrepreneurs. Now I have over a dozen mentees, Aubrey, you know this. And a lot of them very successful in their own right. So if I talk to a young entrepreneur like Tabang, who runs a security business, didn't finish school, never went to university, but probably has more money than Vusi and I combined at this point.
Love that.
It's crazy.
Love
right?
that.
He understands cash flow management. He has no debt. He bought his house in cash. He drives a car that he could afford. He doesn't buy into this into the frills and fuss. That's what we've got to teach. What the ETA is going to do for us, Aubrey, is find those other youngsters, young Vusis and Anthonys, because in the time game, whatever's Vusi's built, he's not going to take with him. Whatever I've built, I'm not going to take with me. I'm going to leave it all behind. The question is to who? And how will it be managed? And our legacy will be in the story that those young folk tell about us. So it's about finding those youngsters, nurturing the skill, the knowledge, building capacity within them. And to go back to what Vusi said, combining the wet ears with the gray hair and getting them to understand how to build significant companies. Because it's this power of compounding. To take a business, and we started the company, our first year of revenue was barely 200,000 Rand. It took us 31 months to break even. We almost went bang up twice. I had to bond my house to get the business going. And so now when you have several hundred million, you look at it and you go, I know what I'm not going to do. So when we moved into our new office, I often tell the story of our boardroom table. I bought a second-hand boardroom table at 5,000 Rand. A new one would have cost me 135,000 Rand. 10 years later, that boardroom table is still very functional. I want to teach the science of money, of the things that you should be investing in.
It's so good.
But we pay a few hundred million in payroll. We've created a few hundred jobs that didn't exist before. That's what we've got to teach young men and women today.
Good. When you're good with the sense, man, like the rands just take care of themselves.
Spot on.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, sure, you can build the fluffy stuff, but do you get the basic stuff right? Capitalism. Capitalism really is about two things. It's value creation and value capture. That's really what it is. Who creates the value, who captures it? And whether or not we want to admit it, we live in a capitalist world. Okay, the very idea of return means I'm looking to capitalize on the principle. South Africa's challenge is we have had very little value creation. Well, he's done. So the fight over who gets to buy what, over who gets shares in what, it's a value capture discussion. So when you see us going, BEE is wrong. You ask people to say, you got to throw away BEE. You say to them, tell me the 6 elements of BEE. They can't.
Yeah.
They don't know that it's 6 different elements and that ownership is only but one of them, right? And by the way, depending on the size of the business, it's actually the one you often get the least amount of points for. So I'm all for criticism, but let's have an intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
When you look at, I come to your business and I take X of Y, I buy X of Y, and I raise a vendor funding and I buy into that business. In effect, what I've done is of the value you've created, I'm capturing some of it. What this is how do we create value? Now, all economies that thrive have an element of value creation and value capture. Let me prove it to you. The other day, it comes out in the press that Nedbank just bought iKhokha for 1.5 billion. What just happened there? Okay, a business that didn't exist 20 years ago just created $1.5 billion worth of new value, and they've created it, and Nedbank is now capturing it. And you could say that about so many other businesses. So the conversation about why do we need businesses, I hear people go, well, not everybody's an entrepreneur. Agreed. So if you work for one, be nice to him. Sure. Okay, if that's your part of the puzzle. If you're married to one, just make the meal and stop arguing over the fact that they've got to work on weekends. So we can't all be one, but we can all think about how do we create an ecosystem where one can thrive.
Yeah.
But the point here is, who's creating the value? I look in my game, man, and I'm deeply worried about something, which is, unless we are intentional about how do we make sure that the value creation reflects the demographics of this country, you've got a different problem coming in 30 years.
Agreed.
Go and have a look at the startups that are being funded and the demographics of those startups. Look at who's putting the money in and look at what the people who look like who get the money. I don't need to make the statement. You will see for yourself that the demographics mirror what were the demographics of our economy in the value creation 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. We're doing it just in a different space. So the reason this is important is because it's about saying, actually, we can all participate. We also have something that we have to add. Oh, and by the way, we actually just happen to know how to run a business. And let me just say this is just from my heart, man. I don't think South Africans cognize what we have here. Mm. I don't think it actually lands on a lot of us. And it's probably because maybe we're not exposed.
They've never left.
We just don't understand. When I hear South Africans go, this is the worst country, I go, that is objectively bullshit.
Exactly.
You don't understand, all of the issues we're talking about. Even then.
That's because most of us haven't traveled the world.
It's true.
And so when you travel the world as extensively as some of us have, you then know what is good back home. Mm-hmm.
Well,
the best food, the best weather, the best culture,
the best people.
It's amazing. The one thing young entrepreneurs have got to understand, large businesses don't want them to become large.
Yeah.
It's a flawed mindset of large businesses.
Yeah.
The number of large businesses that has tried to oppress my business and stifle our ability, I would run out of fingers to count.
One of the guys who does some analytic stuff for us, and I said to him, on a tableau table, just put for me the concentration of South Africa's economy. And he went and did it. Then I was like, hold on, 65 million people, 4 banks. 4? There's like 28 banks in Texas alone. What do you mean we have 4 banks? 5 maybe, but 4? Then I was like, okay, so show me retail. 4, 5. Show me mining. Same. Here's why that's important. Oligopolies, which is what our economy is, stifle innovation because that's how they create oligopolies.
Yep.
Spot on.
And so when you hear it come out in the press, X trillion sitting on balance sheets of businesses, that's what oligopolies do. Right? And unless there is
value retention.
It's value. So unless there is a leader who goes, cut that shit out. Okay? So how does a bank declare a 20 billion rand profit in an economy that's growing at less than 1% and you have a 40 or 30% unemployment rate? Help the math for me. Do you know how they do it? They're an oligopoly, value capture. So our gig, which is why I'm telling you now, this is why this is important. That value creation part is also about realizing that you also have to teach the entrepreneur. No one's going to open the door for you, hey?
Spot on.
You got to kick that
You got to
thing
kick
down.
it down.
And if there's no door, you got to climb over the wall and find a way in. And so for
Not
me,
in the literal sense.
yeah. and so that was probably one of the hardest things I had to learn. When I started my firm, I was mentored by Richard Maponya, who mentored me for the last 6 years of his life until he died. And I'll never forget the one time I'm sitting in his house. He looks at me and he says, he said, in his words, he said, where did you get this illness of seeking applause? What? He says, you're always trying to people please. You're in business. Okay? Create value. They'll like you after. Right? And so there's a lot, I think, of that education that we've got to do, a lot of that knowledge share that we've got to do. And I end again by saying, we don't have a lack of people who know how to do it. Right? It really is about creating a platform where those who know can teach to those who are willing to learn, and then just let the 1,000 flowers bloom. You can't lose.
Which is an echo of what Ant has said. We don't necessarily have a shortage of capital. We have a shortage of ways of unlocking perhaps that capital, the right stories to tell those that have the capital as to why they must unlock that capital. As we close, gentlemen, I know we could talk for hours. This is just absolutely fascinating. Vusi, and I'm going to let you take the last word on this. You spoke about the fact that we don't want people who were not at the risk-taking part of the process to be part of the return part of the process. We've talked about the fact that there are people who are value creators, but there are also people who are value retainers. We've talked about the fact that there are stories that must be spoken, narratives that must go out there to unlock all of this value that is created for this country. My question to you is, how do we tell that story?
Amongst our greatest weaknesses as a country and the people of this country, if not our greatest weakness, and I don't know who told us this, is we have this underlying insipid belief that nothing good can come of us and nothing good can come from us. And so we don't celebrate you until the world does. Then we claim you. Now, if we're doing that to entertainers, what do you think we're doing to entrepreneurs? There is a story that's in the press now. I don't know the details of the story, but I have access to one or two people who are close to the people involved in the story about a farm. This is the story as it is told in the press. A farm funded by a pension fund in South Africa, which farm it appears has run into trouble.
Eggs.
Yeah. The story seems to be, well, this was corruption. How about it was enterprise? Because that also happens in business. Things go wrong. Why am I telling you this? Because as long as in our loud hailer to ourselves, forget the rest of the world, as long as the stuff we're publishing and reading about each other is who stole what from whom, who's taking what where, we're not going to change the story we're having. So my question is, okay, so the story is told now about this farm and the challenges that's run into. Has anybody gone to that institutional investor and said, show us your private markets book and show us the top 10 successes? If the answer is no, why not? I spend a lot of time in the Middle East. Okay. I dare you to fly into Dubai and have something to say bad about an Emirati. I dare you. I double dare you. I remember when I got my golden visa there, a friend of mine he's one of the big ministers, he calls me into his office and he sits me down and he says, I like you, right? I said, yeah. He says, I think of you as a friend. I said, thanks. He says, but you're South African, so I've got to have this conversation with you. He says, that thing you guys do in your country where you talk politics and you pull each other down? I said, He says, here in the UAE, we have one conflict resolution mechanism for people who have things to say bad about us. I said, what is it? He said, it's Terminal 3 at the airport. Don't like it? Go. So people go, well, Dubai is this Mecca. It wasn't a Mecca. They believed it to be, and so they made it.
And they spoke it into existence.
There you go. So the answer to your question is, what do we believe about each other? What do we speak about each other? It's the power of the tongue. If we don't profess life over our country, and if we don't profess prosperity over our country, we're not cursing ourselves. We won't be here in 50 years. It's our kids that we're cursing. Now, somebody watching this will say, yeah, it's just words. Okay. What is the greatest country in the world? The United States. Who told you? They did. They did. And they put it in every movie and every song and every album. We are the greatest country in the world. Look at any of the objective measures. Bar the military industrial complex and maybe the advertising industrial complex, they're not. But they told you, so we believe it. So my question to each and every single South African, whether you are an allocator who would participate in this fund, whether you're an entrepreneur who might benefit from it, whether you are the gray hair who can contribute and help and gives, wherever you are, what do you believe to be true about your country? The belief precedes data. Data does not precede belief. And we're great at studying the data. These are the things going wrong. So what do we believe about ourselves? I still believe in this place, man. It's like people, friends of mine laugh at me and they go, Vusi still believes in Mandela. I do. I genuinely still believe in the magic of Madiba. I believe in this salad of people who can come together from a painful past and build something of prosperity. I genuinely believe that our best days are ahead of us. I believe it.
But there's a reason for that, Vusi. That's because you have.
Good.
Right? You can't achieve it without believing it.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
And some part of the challenge is our youngsters, and a major part of the South African population is still enslaved in their mindset. Mm-hmm. And it is the story that they tell themselves. I was listening to something a few weeks back where it said, in the buying and selling process, the seller gives the buyer a story. The buyer tells himself a story.
Yeah. He internalizes it.
He internalizes that story and then joins the dots in that storyline and says, I now buy the story that Vusi's told me, and therefore I am prepared to invest in this asset.
Good.
How is the South African community selling our story? What is the story? We brand bash the country. I've taken to social media more recently and saying, stop the brand bashing. You're not helping us.
Amen.
You're not helping us.
Amen.
There's a handful of us that are trying to make a difference. What are you doing? Other than brand bashing brand South Africa. So it's the story that we sell about South Africa so that the global community buys into that story and is prepared to invest in us.
100%.
And maybe the question mark is, do some of the oligopolies that exist in the country, do they want the status quo to change? Question mark.
Yeah.
Do some of the wealthiest of our nation, do they really want things to change? Or is it their preference and convenience? What is happening in our society, this 54% of social dependency on grants by women and children.
Sure. Is that the number?
Over 54% of our country, predominantly women and children, depend on the social grants. And so, do you want this to be a perpetual issue for the country? And does that support what you want to achieve commercially? Question mark.
I think what I was thinking, listening to the conversation, is we've asked similar questions to the guests over the last 5 episodes, and it's amazing to see the golden thread. I don't know if you remember John Sinai. We asked him, what is the key to building trust in Africa? And he said it's to restore pride, national pride in the country. And he used an example of America as well, and how much pride they have. I thought that was amazing. That would be one of the biggest factors that we need to consider as a country, and especially as the youth. I think for the ETA Search Fund itself and the model, it's entrepreneurship through acquisition. We've always had entrepreneurs. We've always had acquisitions. We've always had capital. I think the most important part to the recipe here is the advisory and the mentorship and the teaching, from the gray hair to the wet ear. And I just remembered a saying that one of my colleagues in Kenya, I was in Nairobi, we were driving around, and I told the driver, just be careful on this road. I'm a foreigner, I'm a visitor. But I said, just be careful on this road. I saw cops here earlier, and I don't think you can make this turn, so just be careful. And he just said, no, I'm just going to make the turn. Like, you're just, what's the word that they use? A Mzungu.
A Mzungu, yeah.
You're just a foreigner, right? And we turned, and lo and behold, the cops are there. And then my colleague in the back seat said something in Swahili, and translated to English, it says, a father on the ground can see further than the child in the tree. And I think that is the core of what this ETA Search Fund is all about. Yes, there's capital. Yes, there's business ideas, strategies, the country, the opportunity ahead. But we're not going to achieve any of it if we don't focus on the how, the templates that you mentioned, Vusi. And I think that comes from mentorship and advisory. And that's the reason why, we've been so successful in our growth. And with all the
We are the
deals that
father
we've
on the
done.
ground.
We are the father on the ground.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, once again, thank you very much. I know that this is a conversation that doesn't end here.